Today, guys, we're going to be doing some very basic shelters, and we're going to start off with a natural lean-to shelter. Something you should carry with you all the time when you're about is some rope, and I'm using this rope today just so as you can see it better. Normally we would use a good paracord, which is much easier to use and much better for tying knots. So we're going to start today with a basic lean-to shelter, as I said, and it's something a great project for your kids, for your scouts and your cubs. And it's also something that will keep you warm if you come to set up your camp and that. Now, they are a bit more time consuming, but they're good fun for the kids. So we're going to start today with a simple lean-to shelter. And what we're going to do first, obviously you got to suss out your area. So we've got ourselves a couple of trees here, and we've got ourselves a cross pole. So we will set this up, and we will do it about waist height or a wee bit higher. And for this first one, all we'll do is we'll just tie this round the tree. And this is just for support for the piece of wood that you're using, because we're going to start on the other side. So we just put that there now, and that'll keep that at a nice steady for you, because if you leave it on the ground and you start lashing one of your sides, the lashing will be very loose. So we've got our stick lined up. So we're always going to start off with a clove hitch. So the clove hitch is very simple, and you can start on either side, it doesn't matter. We'll use this as our working end, and then that's the bit that's left, that's the standing end. So we'll just loop over like that, give ourselves a good piece on the working end to work with. We bring it over the other piece, so you've formed a cross. You bring it back in and underneath that top one, and you pull down. And that's your clove hitch, and that's not going to move. As you can see, I'm pulling that. And you can keep your clove hitch as close to the tree as possible. So we're going to start off our lashing now. So we've got plenty of rope. So when you're doing this, you'll come underneath and you'll come round the back of the tree, always keeping the rope taut. Keep a tightness to the rope. We'll come round underneath your crossbar and we'll go out over the top. Always try and keep your loops and your lashing close together as possible, keeping it taut. We'll come round again another time, keeping it nice and close together. Keeps it nice and neat. Keep it tight like that. We'll come round again. And we're going to do this about 3 times. 3 times should be enough. We come round. We come underneath there again. And then we start to do what's known as a frap. So we've done the wrapping on the lashing, and now we frap it, and this tightens up our lashing. So we go 1. We go 2, we go 3, and then we finish off with another clove hitch. So we come round over the top of it again, we go underneath like so, and that, as you can see, I can put all my weight on that, and that lashing will hold that. Your preference for this would be paracord. However, I'm using this for just demonstration purposes so you can see it. So once we have that done, we're going to take then the rope off, because we have this secured now, and we're going to lash the other side. So we've tied this up earlier, just as I say, to keep it up, because if there's any pressure when you're lashing one side of it, obviously that lashing's not going to be as tight as you would like it. And we want this to be nice and secure as possible. So again, just keep that there. We're going to start off again with our clove hitch. We pull the working end over and we form our cross. We come through again, we bring it up there, and we pull tight. And again, there's our clove hitch, and it's not moving. So we'll come underneath and we'll start our lashing again. So we're going to do the frapping now. So we come out over and we pull down tight on our lashing. And then we finish off again with a clove hitch. That's it kept. And there's our crossbar, and that isn't going anywhere. After that, we will then get ourselves some sticks that have been on the ground. Now, Try to use stuff that's lying about, because in most forests, you will get lots of stuff on the ground without having to cut trees. Or if you know what a dead stanton looks like, well, then you can cut that because it's dead anyway. And then when we've done this and we start to lay our sticks on it, we will do now like a very famous children's TV show. We'll bring you this one we prepared earlier. So this is one we prepared earlier, and as you can see, we've got all the sticks. Now this stuff was all lying on the forest floor. We didn't have to cut anything down. This is our lashing. I've used sisal for this. Sisal has good grip. So we've built our crossbar, and then we stack all our sticks. Now, as I said earlier, this is time consuming, but it's a great project for your kids because it keeps them active, keeps them going. So we've got all our sticks here, and we build and build and build, and we keep building, and you build as much as you can, because really and truthfully what you want here, you want this to be waterproofed as much as possible. So our crossbar, as you can see, is good and tight. There's nothing moving. And then we'll come round the back and I'll show you how we waterproof everything. So here we are now at the back of our lean-to, and we've started to pack it with leaves. There's lots of leaves this time of year. All right, they're a wee bit wet at the minute, but if you pack these together with what you get off the forest floor, they will form a waterproof barrier. Don't be tempted to use moss. If some places where you go to build it, you use moss, moss will just soak in the water and you'll have a wet shelter. So as you can see, we pack in the leaves, and we'll cover the whole of this with leaves, and that'll be your shelter, and that will keep you dry. And as I say, good time consuming, great project for the kids. You can also do different ones. You can have different types of shelters. Again, we've got this one with the crossbar, and we've started to build sticks and cross them over like wigwam or teepee, and then sticks across, and you just keep building and building and building. And again, we can pack this with leaves, and this will have a nice dry natural shelter. Okay, so we talked about our natural shelters. Now we're going to put up a tarp, or in this case, this is a basha. Don't worry about technology terms. Most people, tarps are cheap. You can buy them now anywhere, and they're mostly poly tarps because of what they're made with. They're a polyurethane. They're waterproof. You can have canvas and all sorts of things, but the poly tarps are the best. But I find this little basha, it's just 8 foot by 7 foot, or just a bit over, and lightweight. Can be turned into a stretcher, can be used as a cover, can be used as a ground sheet. Really small, light, so there's no reason why you couldn't carry this. And some paracord that we talked about earlier. Again, paracord's small and it's light. So what we're going to do now is we're going to put up a ridge line for our tarp, and that's the mainstay to keep the tarp in position. And once we get that ridge line up and get the tarp secured in position, then we can start fixing the tarp to the ground properly. So we're going to make a start now, and we're going to tie our first knot. So our first knot is called a Siberian hitch. Again, lots of information on this online. You might not get it first time, but you will get it. So this is our working end, and this is our standing end. So we'll bring that round to there, and we'll give ourselves enough room to work. So holding the standing end in my left hand, because I'm right-handed, I'll then bring the working end over my hand, and I'll wrap it round, and I'll bring it over the standing end. I will then turn my hand around, bringing that through, and keeping myself a little loop. And then that tightens up to our 3. Okay, so that's that. What I'll do then is, I'll get a little piece of stick, again lying on the forest floor, and we'll put it in here for a bit of security, and we'll pull down on that, and we're going to take our paracord now over to our next 3. We keep this tensioned. Now, we're going to use a tensioned loop knot on this side. So, when you are working at trees, people, just as a wee thing, and you've got branches on it, try not to be breaking them off, because this is all going to bud nicely come April. So we pull it round like that. We'll come out over the top, again, keeping it taut, and we'll pull it down on top of the ridge line. And if we pull like that, you can see it's tensioning the ridge line, because it's important we keep tension on the ridge line. So it's pulled it. We'll come round the back of the 3, and we'll come out over the top this way, and we have more tension. Okay, so once we have that tension on, so once we've got that done, we keep it as tight as we can, keep a tension on it. So if we pull it round and we form a little bite in our working end, and we pull it through and we just do a little loop and we tie it off like that, we're going to get ourselves another piece of stick, and we're just going to tighten that loop, because again, that keeps that there, keeps the loop open, and any excess you can just wrap up or tie. So that's your ridge line. You can see there's a good bit of tension on that. I think that's G maybe on the guitar. So we need to keep tension on our ridge line. So you've kept it because you have a tensioned loop on this side, and you have the Siberian hitch over there. And they're quick release, but we'll show you that when we're taking all down. So what we need to put on this now is we need to put a couple of pieces of paracord on here, and we're going to tie what's known as a prusik knot. So we just leave those there. So we'll need 2 on this. So you get your piece of paracord, you take your 2 open ends together, and it's just an overhand loop. You're just going to tie a wee knot, like so, in the bottom of it. So that's the start of your prusik. So then what you're going to do, I'm just going to put these in my pocket out of the way. You loop the piece of paracord over the ridge line like so, and you bring the knotted end through, and you tighten it up a wee bit. So twice bring it over and bring the knot through, and then for a third time bring the loop over and pull the knot through it. And that's what's known as a prusik knot. And the way that works is, if you pull it either way, it doesn't slide. If you have it like that, you can slide it along the ridge line anywhere you want. But once you go to tension and you pull either way, it catches on the ridge line. And we have one more to tie in this. So we're going to tie another one now on the other side, and then we can start to attach our tarp, or in this case, our basha. So this is where we're going to attach our basha. So we found the middle part of our basha, and this is where your prusik knots come in. Get yourself a little toggle or a piece of stick, and bring your prusik knot, slide it up close, and run your toggle through the prusik knot, okay? And then as we slide, that will stay in there on that side. And then we'll move over to our other side. So we come to the other side of our basha, get ourselves another toggle. We put it through our prusik knot like so, and we pull our prusik knot to one side. Now, sometimes these prusik knots, you might have to make them smaller, or you might have to adjust them, but that's easy enough done. So as you can see, that's the prusik knot holding on the cord, and it's the same on this side. So then you can go on to staking out your basha, and we're going to stake this out in the shape of an A-frame. There are other methods of putting tarps up. You can form teepees, you can form diamonds, whatever. There's ways and means, but these are the most simple. So now when we're going to peg out, some tarps come with their own cord and stuff with them, some don't. So if you want to do, you can make your own adjustable guy lines for your basha or your tarp. So what I'm going to do here is, I'm going to tie in here into the loop on the basha. So I'm going to use a bow line. And the reason we use a bow line is because it'll take the tension. It's not going to pull tight on this. It'll keep a loop in it. So it'll give it a bit of movement when we have wind, because we don't want it really rigid, because if it is, you could tear. And the other thing about the bow line is easy to open again. We're going to form a little loop, and there's a little rhyme to remember the bow line by. So your little working end here, this is your rabbit. So the rabbit's going to come up through the hole, which is your loop. He's going to have a look around. He's going to come round the back of the tree and he's going to come back down through the hole. And that's your bowline. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put a peg in roughly where I think, and I'm going to make this guy line adjustable. So we bring our paracord round our peg, and to form our adjustable guy line, we're going to take the working end and we're going to wrap it round the standing end 3 times. So it's 1, 2, 3. And if you can keep those loops as close together as possible, and then you come right out over the top of everything and tie yourself off a little knot, and that keeps it in place. And then what you can do is you can adjust your guy line as tight as you want. So we'll put our peg in the ground, we'll just let off a bit of adjustment on that again, we get the peg right in, and there we go, and we adjust. And that is your adjustable guy line. Here we have our A-frame. Doesn't take that long to put up. We've got our adjustable guys, we've got our ridge line with our prusik knots, we've our bow lines tied here. And this is a particularly windy day today, so we needed to do a wee bit more, a bit extra pegging on this side. But that's the shelter up. You can have that as high up or as low down as you want, depending on what you want to use it for. If you were putting hammocks up, obviously you would have your ridge line higher and you would have your A-frame out over your hammock to keep you dry. If you had other trees, you could have one end of that out and tied like a lean-to, so as you could sit in underneath it. But you can do all sorts of things with these. And the beauty about them is they're very, very easy to take down because everything you've used is a quick release knot. So for instance, if I wanted to now get rid of this on the guy line, what I have to do is that, and that's my knot open. Unravel from there, guy line off. And that's the beauty about the quick release knots. It's the same here. So we have, as I say, our little toggle, and we had our prusik. So to release that and to tension it, you can see there's a good tension on that, we simply slide the prusik up, and that's one end loosened. We then come here again, we slide our prusik knot towards us to take the tension off, and we take out our basha. And we can then take the basha, and that's a way for folding. And then we have our lines here, and that's the excess you've wrapped up. So here where we have our little toggle, we just loosen that a bit, take the toggle away, pull, and that's our knot undone. And we do the same on the far side where we had our Siberian hitch. So we have our toggle, we take our toggle out, quick release, pop, gone. That's it down. And then you're ready to start folding and taking away all your paracord. And it's that simple to throw up a shelter in the forest.